How did you get started in licensing?
As I mentioned earlier, we get this enormous publicity in USA Today. Within a day or two, I get calls from a number of licensing agents. The only one whose name I'll mention is the guy I went with, which was Mark Friedman, who had a company, it's still in existence, called Surge Licensing. Mark, a few months earlier, had sparked to and picked up a little account called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And they rode that everywhere because, you know, the cartoons, the movies, all the licensing, right? And Mark said to me, Steve, I really like Zen. Would you like me to be your licensing agent? And I was pitched by a few others, but I liked Mark, and he was from Long Island in New York, so we had that kind of bond. And went with Mark, and for several years he handled all the licensing, and that thus became the two video games from Konami, which was the Game Boy and the NES game, Nintendo Entertainment System, and the Just Toys and the vinyl model kits and the pens, pencils, notebooks, Halloween masks, chromium cards, phone cards, and probably a few dozen other things I cannot remember, okay? So that was fortunate, but again, this is why I say, had I not placed that press release through PR Newswire and had it not been picked up by USA Today and had not Mark seen it and contacted me, you see, you know, this is life. So you either you react to these things or you don't.
What do you look for in licensing deals?
Well, you want something that represents your character, your book. Now, there's an interesting nuance to this, which is at the time that Zen got this publicity, the environmental movement was very hot. And when we spoke to the folks at Konami, and when we spoke to the folks like at the toy company, they desperately wanted a property that was environmentally themed. Zen was not initially environmentally themed, okay? He was a mercenary in outer space. But we were presented with this business opportunity. And as a result, Dan and I huddled with a creative team, and we turned Zen into an environmentally themed property, which ended up being very successful for us. In the ensuing years, you know, some people have said, but Steve, you know, so you took advantage of a business opportunity to make money. You took a property that had nothing to do with the environment and turned it into something that had a lot to do with the environment. And all I can unabashedly say is yes, we did it because we had a business opportunity. We were very much into the environmental movement anyway, so I don't rue the fact that we did it. I'll always have I have some high-level detractors who shall remain nameless in the comic book industry. Said Stern, you know, he just did that as a money grab. You know, what can I say? I'm proud of what we did. A lot of people loved what we did. And so that becomes something, again, you know, when you're given a business opportunity, you have to personally decide morally, financially, otherwise, if it's something you want to pursue.
Sure, and anytime there's success in music, film, whatever, there's always going to be the ones yelling, selling out.
Oh yeah.
And that and that usually only comes at a certain level.
Yeah.
So we'll just leave it at that, and people can make their own decisions.
Absolutely.
When it comes to licensing, what do you avoid?
Well, a bad deal. something that doesn't relate in any way to what you want to do with your character, right? I'm sure if, with Zen, to me, he's basically a family-friendly concept. In fact, we call him intergenerational because so many of our fans now have their own kids, and when they come to the conventions, they bring the kid in the stroller and they get their kid their first Zen comic, right? So I'm not into like real edgy stuff. I'm just trying to tell a good story that pretty much anybody, man, woman, young, old, can read. So what I avoid is content. There have been some deals that were proffered to us that we did not take for reasons of that nature.
Is it possible to have too many licensing deals?
Well, I suppose we had a lot. Overkill, maybe? I don't know. I mean, we never got to a point where I felt we had too many, because what you try to do is you try to get them in different categories. Okay, and you can't have competitive. If you're going to go with one video game company, that's it. They're all kind of exclusive, right? So I think it just depends on what your feeling level is, that you've covered the various categories that give your fans the opportunity to like collect a plush toy, to buy a collectible comic book, to play a video game. And if you go on YouTube, where you are, there's several dozen videos of people playing and reviewing the Zen video games, which were considered very forward thinking for their time.
We imagine you've been approached by many people that want to partner with you and Zen. What distinguishes people who you end up working with versus those that you don't?
Well, again, I guess it's like anything in business. You have to trust the people. You have to it'd be nice to like the people. You don't have to like everybody in life. You have to feel they're honest. And so things tend to usually work out as you have a dialogue. And you can't work with everybody, and everybody can't work with you. And then there can be financial considerations, like I may have wanted to hire, say, an artist for a particular book, and that artist is either too expensive or unavailable. It's kind of like, I kind of call artists like the A-listers in my industry. And it's like, when you try to get an actor, an A-list actor, say you want Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio to star in a film, A, they may be too expensive for you, and or B, they just may not be available. So all of these factors kind of play in.
Steve, with Zen, I know you've had success with the action figures and the video games. There were other deals in the works. Did they happen? And where would Zen be today had they happened?
Right. Okay. When it came to live action film or animated TV, in both instances, we've had option deals on them, but the product didn't happen. We were twice optioned for film, and the film had a director attached, a fellow named Brian Usna, who was best known for Reanimator, okay? And so we publicized that. We publicized the fact that there was a movie coming, a pretty well-known at the time screenwriter was hired by the production company, and he wrote the screenplay. So we would put on the back of some of our comics a promotion about the upcoming movie, and then the movie didn't happen for various and sundry reasons. Hollywood is a really intricate system, and not everything that gets proposed happens. So that movie with Yuzna attached didn't happen at the last moment. And then there was a Chinese, China-based company called Eight Celestials that also optioned Zen for a film, live action film, and was talking to people like Steven Seagal, who apparently had some interest in playing Zen. At least that's my understanding. But that didn't happen at the last moment either, okay? Same thing happened with animated television series. An old line, very established company named Ruby Spears optioned Zen for an animated, like, Saturday morning series, and we advertised it in trades like the Hollywood Reporter, and then Ruby Spears went out of business before they could produce the show. Okay, and so these things happen. Okay, but what's nice, you could say, about these things, and as I spoke about serendipity and believing that things happen when they're supposed to happen, what this means is that now there still remains a good possibility that there could be both a Zen live action film and an animated series. I've written, along with a director friend of mine, we've written a brand new live action film script, and I can tell you a little bit later what's happening with that. And we've also been approached by a couple of animation companies, one based in Canada and one here, relative to a Zen animated series. So what didn't happen then may happen now, and it gives me something to look forward to. It's in a way, I'm not unhappy that it didn't happen yet, because one always needs a goal, and that's the only thing that Zen really hasn't achieved is getting on the screen, big or small.
What lessons can you share from that, of deals almost happening, going away? It seems like that's part of anyone's quote-unquote entertainment journey.
Yeah. Well, don't be disappointed if it doesn't happen. And of course I was a couple of times. I had 3 instances, right? And, that makes you feel not happy. But ultimately, I came to the realization that something happens when it's meant to happen, And so I can't tell you if the current activity will turn into a film and or animated series, but I'm enjoying the ride of finding that out. So, and I can talk to you a little bit about where those things are at if you want to know.
Well, I'm just curious too, do you think that mindset, because that's a great mindset where you kind of keep it loose and you're not so, rigid with one idea. You think that's been a part of your longevity, because you haven't gotten frustrated and said, I'm not doing this anymore?
Yeah, well, I've had some severe ups and downs in my life. I was married for 22 years, and for 12 of them, my wife had multiple sclerosis, which eventually took her life. And when something like that happens and you survive it, you kind of get a new outlook on life, which is, hey, I'm not in control here. I am not in control here. But if you want to survive, you must keep ultimately, a positive. After grieving, you have to keep a positive attitude. So when life throws you those lemons, you got to try to make the proverbial lemonade.